Hello! So today we're going to be looking at making improvements to a JOBSITE table saw. Now this is the UK version of the DeWalt DW745, but the changes we should be making will be largely applicable to any JOBSITE table saw. So first thing we need to address is, why do we have a JOBSITE table saw for furniture making? Is this not more for construction? Well, the truth is we'd love a full-size cabinet saw, but the workshop's just too small to accommodate it. So instead, what we've done is we've built this table around it, which we think is a very good solution and negates a lot of the weaknesses of the saw. Not only is it a big outfeed table, but with the blade on the saw wound down, it can quite comfortably accommodate most of our projects, and it's our primary workbench. But today's video is not about the table, it's more about items surrounding the saw itself. And the first thing we're going to look at is the insert plate. So the place you'd start is just taking a rough measurement of this, and then we'll rip down some ply to a little bit more than that dimension.
Hello, Dora here, just stepping in to do a little voiceover. We forgot to say the ply is 12mm thick, and conveniently the saw designer has taken that into consideration, that people would be making these plates, so they do tend to make the insert plates a helpful thickness. With that cut, we can put some double-sided tape onto the original insert plate, and don't worry guys, the saw is unplugged and safe to work on. We can then remove the plate and stick it to the wood, followed by removing the bulk of material at the bandsaw. With a flush trim router bit, that's a straight cutter with the bearing at the end, we can then use the original plate as a template to get the perfect size. We raided our router bits, and this one is certainly not our best quality bit, but its low profile end should interfere the least with the tabs on the original plate that we're copying. And we can easily remove the tabs and clean up the round at the sander. On this particular saw, we know that when the blade is all the way up, there's a fabric piece here that can foul on the insert plate. So to clear that up, Michael passed it through the saw to provide a little clearance. Now is a great time to do a test fit. To do this, we'll switch the power off to the saw again, remove the stock plate and wind that blade all the way down. Now, we know that, unfortunately for us, the blade doesn't actually go low enough. So we're going to have to lower the new insert plate while the blade is turning. Now this can look sketchy, and if you're unsure, we would urge you not to try this, but with the right precautions, you'll find it pretty safe. First, we can move the fence to the edge of the plate as a guide. And second, we'll use a bit of double-sided tape to secure a sacrificial piece of wood to the plate so that our fingers are well clear of any danger. We can then start the saw and lower the plate, careful to keep it up against the fence and level. Once the plate is down, we move the fence across to provide a little extra hold-down support and then raise the blade to its highest extent. We'll then extend the slot to provide clearance for the riving knife. With the plate in the vise, Michael used a handsaw to cut up to a line he had previously marked. By using the existing slot edge as guidance, it should be pretty straightforward to cut a perfectly straight line. To locate the adjustment screws, we eyeballed the centre of the holes and extended a line down the edge of the stock plate. We could then put the new plate on top and transfer the lines. The tab that the adjustment screws are located on is pretty large, so there's no need to be super accurate. Michael ground the tip of the screws to remove the point, then screwed them into the plate. And lastly, we just need to level everything off. This is such an improvement on the stock plate, which not only had a large clearance, but was also impossible to level off as it seemed to be all twisted. And then we repeated the process with a grooving blade. In case you haven't come across a grooving blade before, it's a blade with a flat tooth profile that comes in various thicknesses up to 6mm. And it's so much easier to install than a dado stack, and is a great option on saws like this one, which is incompatible with a dado anyway. Additionally, here in the UK, we really seem to struggle to find blades with a flat tooth profile, so this can be a really great option. We've put links down below if you're interested.
Next on the agenda is to sort out this riving knife. Now, the problem with this knife is it sticks out higher than the depth of the blade, which can be really problematic when you're trying to use push devices like this, or also if you're trying to make a cut that's not all the way through the material, you can't have the knife, and taking the knife on and off can be laborious. Now, the knife is designed so that it attaches the blade guard like this, and I still want that option for the future, so I bought a second knife, and with the knife that's in here now, I'm just going to make a mark across there at the height of the blade and cut it off with a grinder. Now we want to cut on this line, but with the blade thickness on this side of the line. So to make life a little bit easier, we're going to add another piece of tape and remove the blue piece.
This is such a massive improvement and will no doubtably be our go-to knife option most of the time. It's so strange that the UK version of this saw has this odd knife to begin with, and the other global versions seem to be able to accommodate a low-profile knife and blade guard in a much smarter design.
This is the module that should give our table saw the soft start feature we're looking for. Now, since we're not electricians, we don't really want to give a tutorial on how to install it, but it looks pretty straightforward, and if you are looking to do it yourself, we've placed a link to the product down below. It's compatible with every brushed motor table saw, and it comes with pretty simple instructions on how to install it.
We're installing a soft start for two reasons. One is we want to use the vacuum's auto start feature, but this can sometimes trip the fuses in our workshop, so not ideal. And secondly, we think it's much easier going on the saw to have a gentler start. And as if by magic, poof, it's all wired up. This was definitely the first attempt and there were no bad words said, apparently. The next job is to set up this paddle e-stop. This was one of the easier jobs and we found this fairly sturdy unit on Etsy. If you're interested, again, there is a link down below to all the items that we've used and would recommend. Once again, it's surprising this isn't a standard feature on the UK saw. It's so much safer and nicer to use than fumbling around for that little off button.
So when we use this saw, we notice that sawdust is quite often spat out the front or underneath here, rather than being extracted as it should be. So we thought, while we have it on the side, good opportunity to look into the main body of the saw and underneath the saw to see if there's any voids that we can seal up. Now the good news is there are some small areas here and here that we could seal up with a little bit of electrical tape. Bad news is there's some huge voids in here, which looks like there's not much that we can do, given that the blade still needs to move up and down and rotate to 45 degrees and back. And I think this is just the design of the saw and something we're going to have to live with. Hopefully our new extraction system will be powerful enough to compensate for that. Our current solution to dust extraction is a standard shop vac plumbed into the back of the table saw. Now, that's got a few problems. One is we only have one shop vac, so we're migrating it around all the workshop and constantly tripping over the hose. It's the plumbing and unplumbing of the table saw 20, 30 times a project. But also, keyly, when we have dust extraction on the bottom, we can't have dust extraction on the blade guard on the top either. Our upgraded plan is to have a dedicated shop vac just for the table saw. Now, we can power the table saw via the auto start feature of the vacuum, which means we won't have to be plugging and unplugging the saw all the time. And we're going to run a cyclone dust separator with a reservoir unit just here to capture all of the dust. This is going to be quite a particular unit that's designed specifically around the table arrangement that we've got here. So I'm not going to go into the detail of how we make this, but I will go into the detail once it's finished of like the right hose sizes and the things that you can copy to make this for yourself. We have learned that these cyclone separators are fantastic and can be very efficient, but only if you get the right combination of hose sizes in and out of the cyclone. So that's all the upgrade to the vacuum done, and we couldn't be happier. It seems like we're getting nearly all the dust collected in the drawer here and none in the bag. So it looks to be a very efficient system. The magic number seems to be a 50mm or 2-inch hose to go between the cyclone and the vacuum. That's worked with this setup and our other shop vac setup. Between the cyclone and the saw, we've also got a 50mm hose, but on the other extractor, we've just used a standard shop vac hose and it works as well. The key one is between the cyclone and the vacuum. Now, in terms of how much it improves the actual extraction of the saw, I think the jury's still out, but I don't think it's going to be massive improvements. But what it is a massive improvement is usability of the saw. Being able to switch it on, being able to run the second vacuum onto the hood attachment is going to make a massive difference, and I think I'm really looking forward to using it. A quick note from the future, it's now been a whole year since the footage that you're watching. That might be because it took me a year to edit it together, but it has at least given me the opportunity to use the saw extensively. And I have to say, each and every one of those upgrades has been such a massive improvement to the saw. It's so much more accurate, safe, and a pleasure to use now. So if you are a woodworker with a JOBSITE saw, I strongly advocate making some of those changes. The one change that hasn't made it into the video you're watching is this fence extension. And the reason we've not done that is because we only just thought of a concept that we were happy with and thought was really actually worth pursuing. And this is so easy to make and it's so good. So that video is going to be released as the next one in the series, so please watch out for it. And until then, I'll hand you back to past Michael. So that's all the upgrades complete, and we think they're going to make a big difference to our workflow. If you want to make any of the upgrades for yourself, all the items are linked in the description down below. And if you have any questions, send us a comment. We respond to all of them. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do like and subscribe, and until next time, cheerio.